Welcome to a video 5 years in the making. A video that nobody, and I don't like to use literally in anything but the literal sense, but I would feel confident in making the literal claim that nobody asked for this video. But it's here. For any of my returning subscribers, you know who you are. You're watching The Invasion of Ba Sing Se, Part 2. However, it is with sad regret that I must say that Mr. Freezer Films is not with us today. He passed away several years ago, sadly, in the comfort of his own home. But fear not, we have a new guest with us today. His name is Pat. Pat, say hello.
Hi, I'm Pat.
That's Pat. There's two of us.
Thank you, Mr. Obvious.
Thank you. You're welcome. Today's topics, as we play Roblox in the background, as you can probably tell, will be Bernie Sanders, socialism, black crime statistics, and I don't know, we'll kind of just go from there, but none of this is scripted. We're really just off the cuff here. I'm not going to apologize for anything we're about to say. I don't know, you got a topic in mind you want to start out with?
I don't know. I mean, we could start about the failure of the Democratic Party as Joe Biden continues to surpass Bernie Sanders in every single state so far. Is it every single state? It's the majority of the states.
He didn't win the first couple of primaries. Like those didn't go down so well for him.
Dumb damn socialist.
No, we're gonna be realistic here. We're going back. We're gonna change the hair color. There's a lot of There's a lot of firebenders with like red. No. What's screaming to me right now? What's screaming? But no, we can talk about the failures of the Democratic Party as a whole. That's actually pretty fun. It's a good place to start in. What exactly about where do you want to start in that topic? That's a broad topic. There's a lot of failures of the Democratic Party in the last couple of years.
I mean, it's just... Let me see. How do I say this? The Democrats just haven't united under anybody. Well, like, with our current president, every single... Like, he's dominated in every state that he's won in by, like, a horrible an insane majority. 90s, 80s, stuff like that. People really love him, and the votes show it. As compared to the Democratic parties, where sometimes it's just really close between the two candidates. The Democrats can't seem to pick, kind of the representative they actually want.
Well, that's not exactly the fault of the Democrats. You get Trump has the incumbent advantage, like who's going to run against president. It was like the same thing in the 2012 primaries for the Democrats. Obama was just the nominee. I mean, is any Republican going to truly offer any kind of competition to the president?
I don't know. I'd like to see it. It'd be fun.
I'd like to see it too. It'd be kind of interesting because he's already the presumptive nominee. He already has all the delegates he needs in order to do. I'm off topic. I ran off there.
Oh, that's good.
He's got the nominees needed to become the nominee already. So it's pretty much you got the delegates needed to become the nominee. That I was really in this game right now. I'm kind of throwing fireballs around, trying to level up as all firebenders naturally do in their homes. Democrats, but you are right that the Democrats have an issue with uniting, and that's a very key thing. And I've been bringing this up since 2016. 2016, we saw this also. There was a really big schismatic change in both parties. And you saw this in the form of Bernie Sanders for the Democrats, and you saw this in the form of Donald Trump for the Republicans. And what you saw was the Republicans accepting this schismatic change and adopting it, going forward with it instead of trying to fight it, trying to resist it. They resisted in the beginning, as all change is resisted, but it didn't last very long. Well, the Democrats really
just don't know what they're doing. I've seen a group of chickens without their heads function better than how the Democratic Party seems to be functioning.
I think the issue can. How do I want to word this? I'm trying to focus at the same time. This is a lot more difficult than I thought it was. A lot of YouTubers make this look a lot easier. Maybe I'm just retarded. That could also be a factor.
Speaking of retarded people, no, never mind.
About the Democrats, yeah. You know, fucking stupid ass Democrats. You know, as the jokes go. This is off topic, of course. I've always hated. I hate the fucking.
The extremists on both sides.
No. I hate the stupid insults. If you're gonna insult someone, you either need to be really basic on purpose, like calling someone a stupid head, you know, really basic. The purpose is just trying to be basic. That's what makes that funny. Or you need to be creative. I always hate Republicans calling them Democrats, Demorats, libtards, you know, things like that. And I hate it on the other side too, like conservatards. It's not creative. It's not funny. It's boomer humor, you know?
Well, they're about to die anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, they were gonna die anyways. I don't really care. I'm saving for some reason. How do I upgrade my stats? How do I get new abilities? Maybe I should read the abilities. All right.
Did you not see the little plus symbol? Go back to stats.
Under stats?
There's a little plus symbol by it.
Skill. Oh, so do I need to like? Do I need to upgrade?
Democrat here.
Do these not give me new powers though? It doesn't seem to be.
I don't know. We'll find out.
I think I'm trying to level my. You know what? Fuck this. Let's just go to Ba Sing Se and launch an invasion. I don't think those fuckers are gonna stop me. But we were talking about how shitty insults are just not fucking funny. Political insults can be very funny, but I mean they either need to be simplistic on purpose, or they need to be creative.
Yeah,
and calling someone a libtard is neither. It's not simplistic. You're clearly putting work into it. Someone had to see liberal and retard and like in their brain like cut those two words apart, put them together like some shitty like macaroni art you would do for kindergarten and go this
is the insult.
This is art. Like if I'm the Da Vinci of like political satire, it's not funny. It's funny the first time you hear it as like a 12-year-old.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like it's creative as a 12-year-old, but any adult saying it should probably just off themselves.
Me sweating profusely in the corner.
I know you. Oh, what's this guy want to say? What are you saying, buddy? I want to see what you're selling. I don't got any gold though, so goodbye.
I don't know. It seems weird that he's just hiding at the edge of town.
Yeah, how fucking dare he? I didn't hit him with that, so we're walking away now because that was embarrassing.
But anyway, we were talking about the schism and everything, and the Democrats just seem to haven't recovered from it. They're still majorly divided, and not by just like one or two minor little differences between their candidates, like really radical differences in how both followings seem to be going.
Well, they're all radical. That's the thing people don't understand. They're all radical. Even when I make the argument to people that Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden are like the moderates of the Democrats, I'm not calling them moderates in the general sense of politics. I'm calling them moderates in the sense of the Democratic Party. Pete Buttigieg and fucking Dementia Biden are fucking radical. They're fucking crazy. They're all insane. It's just comparatively. It's because it's like when I bring up the fact that Donald Trump hasn't become a Republican. It was just kind of thrust on him. He's still the same business Democrat he was from the 1990s. It's just the Democrats have moved their party so far to the left that Donald Trump is only now welcome in the Republican Party. That's the funny part about it. That's what I love. He's a Democrat from the 90s. Like if this was 1992, he'd be considered absolutely a Democrat in every way, shape, and form. But apparently he's some kind of radical. I don't want to see what you're selling. I want to fucking get power-ups. Guess I should just keep throwing fireballs out and hope that does something eventually.
Oh, another player. Ask him.
Hey, you bitch. Oh, he's an air nomad, too. Get fucked. You're on fire now. Oh, we're fighting now. He took no damage from that. He's actually healing faster than my stamina recuperates. Recuperates. So he's at full health now, so I've done nothing. And I missed. But that counted somehow towards my stamina, so I guess I didn't miss. But we're getting off topic. We're discussing
The schism still, and Democrats. Fun stuff, easy stuff. It's not too bad. It's just they're all really radical. One wants to completely overhaul the entirety of our American way of life with socialism. It's just the complete opposite of what capitalism is, and you can't just do that. Even if Mr. Bernie Sanders was elected president, let's go out on a limb and say that somehow America is dumb enough to elect him twice. Even in 8 years, he would not have the time to fully implement everything he needed to implement.
That's a fantastic point, because people don't understand that. I ask them, do you think he would actually accomplish anything while he was in office? I'm like, if you think, like, people bring up Donald Trump's failures, and I'm like, well, that's generally because half of Congress automatically hates his guts because he's a Republican, and at least half of the Republicans in Congress really don't fucking like him. I'd push that even further. I would say that maybe close to 75% of the Republicans in Congress hate his fucking guts, and they just like accept it because he happens to be it's partisan bullshit. They don't really like him, but because he's a Republican, they have to like him. And I'm like,
and especially because he's the president. You don't want to be that one guy your party is in office, your party is Republican, you have a Republican president, and you don't want to be that one dude that goes, I really don't fucking like him though, so I'm just going to vote against him. That's not cool, and that's how you get very nicely dressed fellows showing up and having a nice conversation with your kneecaps.
Are you insinuating something?
I'm not insinuating anything.
Oh, okay. My bad.
I'm just saying, some nice fellows would probably show up. I'm sure they're lovely.
I need to figure out how to fucking get abilities. Using abilities grants you experience. You unlock more abilities as you level up. So I just got to keep blowing up shit with my fucking fire. Damaging the town I'm in to hopefully get out of here one day. It's a sad story. It really is.
But yeah, like...
But no...
It's interesting. Like,
what I was trying to say... I was getting to, I apologize, is that if you think Donald Trump has faced obstruction in Congress, you haven't seen Bernie Sanders yet. You'd have 100% of all the Republicans against him. Absolutely. And even far more Democrats. How many Democrats in Congress right now are socialists? Very fucking.
Very few. You could probably count them on both your hands.
Yeah, you might be able to count them on one hand. I'd have to actually look at that. I really would. But with the exception of, a minority of them, a lot of the Democrats and Republicans in Congress are practically the same fucking person. There's really no difference between them, and I've been bringing this up for years.
Oh, yeah, well, because the average person, the ideas aren't that radical. What really makes you like a Republican or a Democrat is how radical on either side are you.
That's why I've been arguing to people. I'm arguing with Democrats right now who have like the hashtag vote blue no matter who bullshit. And I'm like, that's retarded. It's retarded as any Republican voting for Trump simply because he's Republican. You should vote for people who share your ideals. You should vote for people who have what you want in mind. That's what you should vote for. Because Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden are closer to each other than they are to Donald Trump. Just because one is a nominee over the other doesn't mean you should automatically vote for them. I mean, I don't like the partisan bullshit in the country. I think it's very unhelpful to the American cause.
Well, the idea that we formed political parties in the first place is unhelpful to the American cause.
Oh, George Washington's sitting there like
he's rolling in his grave right now.
They would have been stacking bodies by now.
Stacking bodies. Because what do you do? Because you have 50%. 50% does nothing. If we were going to have parties, we might as well do it like the Europeans and have like 3 major parties.
You see, I agree with that in principle. My issue with that becomes you get parties that will win a mandate to rule the entire country without actually winning that mandate. If you win 51% of the vote, you can at least make the argument that, hey, the majority of the country supports me. I have a rule to rule over this. But if you have 9 or 10 parties, you could see the winner have only 28% of the vote. And at that point, it becomes a little harder to argue that you have a rule. You have a mandate of having you, like that Chinese dynasty bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's
Well, the way I see it is, like either have no parties at all, people just run on principle with no party affiliation, or you have the multiple parties. That way you just don't get deadlined in a 50-50 vote. Because who's the tiebreaker at that point?
I think I could go with the whole no parties at all. You just kind of, I can buy a dinghy for free. Fuck you guys. I'm getting the hell off this nation. I can agree with that in principle. I think at that point the issue becomes, how do you fund things? How do you organize things? Eventually, you get to a point where you're just making parties again. You're just making parties with extra steps.
True.
I think it's an issue that is a problem, but I just don't know if you can solve it in like a way that is good, that is acceptable to most Americans. I agree with you that the two parties presents a major issue to American politics. I just don't think there's like a solution that works the best. Like you have a lot of parties and you run into a thing where the winning party doesn't even have a fucking actual majority. You have no parties and it becomes very hard to run because you're pretty much by yourself. And if you don't do anything about it, people are just naturally going to form up into regular parties again and you're back at the square one or square two. I don't know. There might be a better solution and someone might be able to bring it up to me and I'd love to hear it. I really would.
Actually, yeah, very, very curious.
I bought the boat. Where the fuck is it? Do I need to like...
Where's my dinghy? I need my dinghy.
I'm pressing L.
You're just going. Just go.
No, I don't got stamina. I'll drown. Let's go make sure I bought it, actually.
You're good. Just go. Just run through it.
just fucking run. Run through the water, dude. That's how fucking firebenders do shit.
Yeah, man.
I bought the dinghy. I know I fucking did. I bought it. It's bought. You can only own one ship/flying animal at a time and one land vehicle as well. To spawn your ship, you must press the L key. There must be enough room for it to spawn. Yes. I don't know what enough room... It's a dinghy. It's like 10 feet. Not even. How much is enough room? What kind of clearance do you need? Do I need to be like first person mode? No, I have no stamina. I'm about to die. Okay, we're doing good. Like, is there a dock I can go to over here where, like, I can spawn it?
Fucking failure.
I'm just mashing it now. There's nothing coming up.
About to Google this.
About to Google. How do I spawn?
But no, like, it's, yeah. Oh, no. Very interesting situation. And apparently, no one's... I'm assuming someone at some point has thought about, man, you know what? These two parties is really inconvenient at times. The sad thing is, it's just those two parties are so ingrained in our culture. When you try to make a new party, it just can't. It just doesn't thrive. It just doesn't have the support. Because the average American doesn't do their due diligence, find out what candidates stand for, what the actual party stands for. There's plenty of times where somebody's like, yeah, guess what? I'm a Republican. I vote Republican because my family is. But it turns out he's more Democratic in ideals. And it's the exact same vice versa. It's just people don't do their research. And these third parties just can't get those resources to start to building up. Like the Bull Moose Party, right? That died out because just no one would back it. It was either Republican or Democrat.
No, that's a fair point. I blame education. I think it's a school system, but I think that goes into a number of other problems. And I've been arguing with people about this. I've been arguing with people about this for almost a year now. I'm saying that people just aren't educated enough. And I'm not meaning that in a demeaning way towards any people. It's just that people...
We focus on the wrong thing.
They get ingrained with this, it has to be Republican or Democrat party, and that third parties can't win. And that's not... And people don't break out of it because it's not technically, it's a self-fulfilling cycle. You tell people that third parties can't win, so don't vote for them. People believe it. They don't vote for third parties. Third parties don't win, and that just reinforces the point you're making. You say, see, they can't fucking win. That's why you don't vote for them. And the only reason they're not winning is because you don't think they can win. Because people already think most people already think their vote's a waste. If you ask most people, like me as a Republican, not really Republican, me as a conservative-leaning person in a state like Illinois, which votes blue every general election, I feel that my vote would be wasted in the same way that a a person leaning liberal would feel in Texas, or a person leaning liberal would feel in like Alabama, And so you already feel your votes away. So why are you going to go vote for a party that is just more of a waste? It doesn't. I don't blame Americans for not doing it, but I agree with you that there's a responsibility on Americans to do research and to fix it themselves.
That's the idea. Like, Americans are supposed to be able to. Oh man, what am I trying to say? Americans have their duty, right? When it comes to everything, when it comes to the government and representatives, we are a republic. We are not a democracy. We are a form of democracy. A lot of people get that confused, but the idea is you have people to represent you, but you must do your research on those people to represent you. Do your due diligence and everything. We discussed before Bernie Sanders' free university and all this stuff. What would that actually have to cost to implement? And don't just look at like a Democrat side. Look at Republicans. When Republicans say something, think to yourself and research what would you actually have to do to achieve this goal.
That's a symptom of the fact that people don't press people. That's what I keep bringing up to Bernie bros. I'm like, do you really think, like, Bernie survives because no other Democrat will question his fucking plans. They will go, because when it comes to something like his free healthcare, my free healthcare, my free college, my ice cream for everyone. When it comes to that, each individual thing, Bernie can argue very well on how he pays for each individual plan, but he doesn't want to implement an individual plan. He wants to implement them all. And no one will ask him how he wants to pay for all of it combined because they know what his answer will be. You can't.
It's just theoretically impossible. Well, I say theoretically, it's pretty much impossible with the current status of the economy, unless the average poverty level jumps up to 10 million.
And I tell them, for Bernie Sanders' plans to be implemented, you need to massively raise middle-class taxes to pay for it. And they tell me no. And I say, well, what's your proof? What's your proof for why you wouldn't need to raise taxes? And they link me to Bernie Sanders' website, where the only source is his fucking word. And they say, well, where's your proof? And I go, all the European nations that you compare us to, all the European nations that you bring up and say we're going to be like them, well, I go look at their tax rates. And it's... You know what the average tax rates paid in nations like Denmark and Norway and the UK, Germany, France? They're massive. And they come up and they come back at me with, oh, well, those are the top tax rates. Yeah, the top tax rate is higher there than it is here. I'm like, no, even the average tax rate is an additional 20 or 30% in total tax rate. I'm not talking just income. I'm talking every other tax combined. And I'm not saying Americans don't pay a high fucking tax. The average American, depending on the state you live in, you might pay 25 to 30% of your entire income in a given year away to all taxes, income, both federal and state, local and municipality taxes, Social Security tax, Medicaid tax, Medicare tax. You're going to pay a hefty price. But why am I going to bump it up another 20%?
Why the average American can't even do that. People talk about like, oh, middle class this, middle class that. But people don't understand how the average person, because you'd say it, I definitely came from a very poor background. And to me, middle class was something that was massive, right? Massive change. But the thing is, middle class people barely scrape by half the time themselves. They just have bigger things in a lot of ways. But that's what it's like being middle class, but they still barely scrape by in a lot of instances as well. Raising their tax isn't fair. To be honest, raising the tax in any individual group is unfair. I don't like having the rich people rich get taxed more. I don't like having the middle class taxed more. I don't like having the poor people taxed more.
Well, that's just because taxes are inherently unethical. And the argument they make in response to that is, you're right, the middle class does scrape by, which is why we need to make these services they rely on free, so they don't have to scrape by, worry about not being able to get that. And my first counter argument to that is always that would make sense if the cost I pay in increased taxes is less than the cost of the services I'm already paying for. If what I pay for healthcare and for college and all that stuff is more than what I pay under your tax plans for it all free, then it makes sense. But that's just not the case. An additional 20 to 30% tax on me would be an immense hike over what I would currently pay for it. It blows my mind.
In simple terms, you know, let's say I'm paying $10 let's just go for a gallon of gas, right? I pay $10 for a gallon of gas, but the government's coming in going, we'll give you free gas, but you have to pay $12 in tax for that. You're losing money at that point. Might as well have just spent the $10 instead of the $12 to get the quote unquote free gas.
And then my second argument back to that is always that's a great fucking analogy, because it highlights the fucking the failure of bureaucracy, failure and the curse and the blessing of bureaucracy, which is it strangles itself. It sucks. Bureaucracy is slow. I always tell people, do you know every dollar you pay for Medicaid, for Social Security, for these welfare taxes, do you know how much of that legitimately goes to these people that you're fucking trying to help? It's not even a penny. It's not even a tenth of a penny. It's so minuscule. Over 90% of your welfare taxes spend themselves before they ever get to the fucking people that need them. Government is not an effective way to administer anything. That's not the government's job. Governments are created specifically to be poor administrators of things, because no one wants the government to be too powerful. That's the whole idea. That's the issue people don't have, is they don't see that as the issue. What do you want? Have you seen a helmet lying around? No, I haven't. Why don't you go find your fucking helmet? I'll go find your helmet. Right.
Can you tell me how to put my boat out? Are you a fisherman?
I'll find your helmet. Oh, where's that?
Very descriptive in a volcanic landscape.
All right, I got that. I know where this is at, I think. I'll find your hat, man. Your helmet.
Yeah, sure. But it's just people don't do their due diligence, and they really need to do their due diligence, because there's a responsibility on the people, right? Because it only takes 4% of the population to overthrow the government.
You could do with less.
You looks around nervously as the FBI agents start listening in. But,
I weep for the ATF and the other alphabet soup boys who fucking kicked down my door. I weep for them.
They're going down. But the idea is the average person just doesn't do. People don't understand how much the average person holds power over the government. But people don't know that, so people don't do their due diligence in anything. They don't do their due diligence on what these policies are actually doing. There's a reason why candidates put their policies out, the policies they want to implement, so you could see, you could study, you can come to your own conclusion, but people just don't do it. There was a video, literally a video before Donald Trump came out, when Donald Trump was talking about his tax policy, and no one wanted to listen to it. Well, this guy came up and started explaining his Trump's tax policy to people, and claimed it was Bernie Sanders' tax policy. And every single person he talked to is like, because he's in a very liberal area, was like, oh yeah, Bernie Sanders, that sounds so smart, that's so great, man, that sounds just like Bernie Sanders. And then he goes, well, you're an idiot, because that was actually Trump's tax policy, and you would know that if you actually do put some effort and time into researching what these candidates are saying.
I love those videos, whether they be fucking punking on Republican voters or Democratic voters, because they don't do their due diligence. They don't research shit. The amount of Republicans who would find themselves agreeing with Democrats and the amount of Democrats who would find themselves agreeing with Republicans is simply appalling. It is sickening how many Republicans and how many Democrats are living their lives as a lie. They're not. They're not in the right party. There's a better party for you. Was it over here? Yeah, there it is. Found that fucking helmet. I just keep it.
It's mine now.
My fucking helmet now, bitches.
But it's just sad, and that's how we have that issue of full circle back to the great divide that is currently having in the Democratic Party. It's because no one on either side, whether it be Biden, Sanders, whoever, no one is doing their diligence and actually checking out what these policies mean, what these candidates actually stand for. Because I could be a candidate and I can stand on a podium all day and preach and say this, this, and that. But when it comes time for me to start presenting some of my policies that I actually want to implement, there's where you're going to see what's really happening. Like the true meat and potatoes of what I am actually trying to put in this office and implement into this country. At that point, I can't lie. Like, I don't know. Can you actually do that? Can you go, yeah, this is going to be my tax policy. No one gets taxed. And like put out a fake policy?
You probably just
Could you do that? You get impeached.
It makes some fucking. They can clearly impeachment can be made up with some fake ass, some trumped up charges. And you can just.
That was a great time because it was just funny. It was just funny because there was nothing. Literally was nothing.
People to this day still fucking this is the thing. There's just people don't do the research. They just listen to it. People still to this day think Russia got Trump elected. They think that Obama didn't spy on him. I'm like, regardless of whether you think it's justified or not, I'm like, the fact you deny its existence is just it's appalling. You had this recently in the primaries. I saw a poll, and I don't generally trust polls. But let's just assume. Let's just go against my usual grain of thought, and let's just assume this poll's right. And the poll asked Florida voters, "Who do you think will be better for Social Security, Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders?" And you have Joe Biden, who's gone on record saying he wants to cut Social Security, which I perfectly agree with. I think Social Security should be cut 100%. That's my fucking man right there. But it's clear if you support Social Security and its implementation, Bernie Sanders is the preferable candidate. And over 50% of the people asked in the poll said that Joe Biden was the better one. It's things like this.
People wonder why. Why is our country like this? And you're right, it's idiots like that.
If you just did a little bit of research, just look. People don't look up their candidates. They just don't care. The dinghy spawned! All right, now the invasion of Ba Sing Se commences. So I gotta go back here.
We begin, boys. This is where we begin.
Gotta find Ba Sing Se, of course. But I will eventually. People are just wrong. And I don't pretend to be right on every topic. Funny enough, the shit that started this whole video, the Twitter drama, the two retards I was talking to, that brought me up, and they found my old YouTube channel that kind of kickstarted all this. I think the funniest thing about it is that when those YouTube videos were being made, my political beliefs were quite interesting. I was a Bernie Sanders supporting socialist. I think that's the funniest part. I think that's the gotcha part of it, is that I thought the same as them. They thought the same as a middle schooler who made cringy Roblox videos. And I gotta say, that's perfect.
Not much has changed. But you're right. Again, if you don't, it's crazy. It's crazy.
We were having this. I don't remember the other retard. There's the two Twitter users. I don't remember the other retard. He's fucking. I remember his name. I remember his profile icon. I can't remember a literal conversation we've had together. He's just insignificant. But I'm going to the other guy. I like the other guy. He's fucking retarded.
You went all the way back for your Twitter.
That guy, no, that was the former guy. The guy I can't remember at all. Props to him. Props to him for doing it. I still can't recall a single conversation we've had. I don't think about you. The other guy, though, I really enjoy. He's a fucking moron. I think I love him because he has no principles. I think that's what I find so intriguing about him. He stands up for nothing at all. He's a hypocrite. He blocked me for a couple of months because I annihilated him. I don't like to use it. I Ben Shapiro facts and feelings his ass in a gun debate. I'm not correct in a lot of topics. I won't pretend to be the fucking messiah of arguments. It's not difficult to prove me wrong. I get proven wrong all the time. I love getting proven wrong because
that's what debates do, though.
It gives me yeah. Go ahead.
That's like, because the analogy, like, if you debate for a living, or not really for a living, but if you do it like as often as you, I obviously don't debate as often as you, so therefore my debating skills are a lot rustier and a lot worse. But when you debate and someone beats your debate, then let's go back to sword making, right? It's like you're making a sword and you find a fucking chink in it, or you find it's bent, or it's warped. Well, you put that back into the fire and you refold it, and you double down on your research on that particular topic, and you get ready for that debate again. So you lost one debate, but you will win the second debate with your newfound knowledge and everything.
It provides a perfect experience to learn. Learning from mistakes is the best. I love losing debates. I don't like it in the moment. I don't think anyone really does. But a couple of days later, I like losing debates because it gives me a chance to go, where did I go wrong? Sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes my sources just weren't as foolproof as I thought they were. Sometimes my argument just didn't hold water like I think I did. But I got to say, the one topic I don't recommend people debate me on is guns. Because I've had too many years of that. Too many years of that experience. I've had almost 10 years of being a pro-gunner. I've refined those arguments over fucking time. I get beaten on abortion topics. I get beaten on climate change topics. I get beaten even on economic, socialist topics that I really enjoy arguing on. Guns, I have not lost a gun debate in fucking years. It's not, am I going to Kyoshi Island or am I going, this is not Ba Sing Se. Unless the walls have gotten, this is Ba Sing Se. No, it is. It's just a perspective. It's an optical illusion. It's the depth perception. I see Earthbenders already fucking around, so I'm coming, motherfuckers.
I'm coming as you throw more fire as a warning.
He blocked me because I fucking annihilated his ass on fucking guns.
What was the particular
the topic started that he made the argument that the United States is a gun epidemic problem, and I've made this argument before. The United States does not have a gun epidemic problem, not in any traditional sense. Comparatively to France, yeah, sure, why not? Comparative to Britain, yeah, sure, why not? You can cherry pick any individual country, the fucking size of Louisiana and the population too, and make the argument for why America has a gun. Is this Ba Sing Se?
You gonna just let me walk into the front here?
Hey, you! Is this Ba Sing Se? The walls are not. When you look at these walls, I think the whole Dragon of the West thing might be a little bit exaggerated. Come on, I'm gonna walk inside. You have yourself a good day, sir. There's some guy behind me. Do I engage him? I don't know. Am I here to murder, genocide, rape, or pillage? All the above, perhaps.
All of the above.
Is this that? Where the fuck am I? Hey, don't fuck with me. Hiya!
But no,
That's an avatar. But no, we were having the discussion over the alleged gun epidemic issue in this nation, and people love to bring up the whole people's gunners. I'm not saying this is a bad argument, but pro-gunner counterattacks they love one of these two things. Do you think obesity is an epidemic in the United States? And do you think car accidents are epidemic in the United States? Because both of those kill far, far fucking more than guns do. I think obesity is around 300,000. And I think car accidents, I think they're like 200,000. I could be wrong on those numbers. And, it's a nice little gotcha question, because if you're not going to sit here and say that those are epidemics, you can't stand on any fucking form of moral ground and argue
that guns are.
When guns only kill 40,000. And we can get into the numbers. We can break down those numbers in a couple of minutes. But I really love the doctor malpractice one. Because in any given year, because guns always change, doctor malpractice, your doctor botching a surgery, your doctor giving you the wrong medication, things of this nature, will kill equal to or more than guns will kill in a given year. And I always ask people, do you think doctor malpractice is an epidemic in the United States? Because most anti-gunners will make the argument that, yes, I do think obesity and I do think that car accidents are a fucking problem because they kill over 100,000 Americans a year. And so you're kind of stuck in this kind of tailspin where it's no longer a gotcha question. But doctor malpractice kills the exact same number or more every single given year. If that's not an epidemic in your eyes, then you literally have no argument to stand on. I've yet to meet an anti-gunner who makes the argument that, yes, doctor malpractice is an epidemic that needs to be solved. I've yet to this day, and I'm still waiting. I'm sure there'll be one eventually.
One day, after the 10 people who's going to watch this video, one person will say it. And then what are you going to do?
I don't know, man. I'll have to make a new argument. But he deflected. Of course. He just moved along. well, if you compare, it's 40,000 gun deaths a year. I'm like, you're right, it is. And then when you break that, you got to break that down. You got to look into the context of things. 40,000 is a lot of 40,000, regardless of anything else, is a lot of deaths. I'm not going to make any kind of claim otherwise. But context is important. What are those 40,000 made of? Well, first off, 1/3 to a half of those are suicides, right? They're gun deaths by suicides.
Yep.
So no amount of gun control will ever stop those. Those suicides. Suicide is one of the easiest things to do in this country. I mean,
if I'm going to be honest here, you know, that's a good-looking highway you got right there.
you can.
Or
Guns are just convenient. That's why guns are so often used. And suicides is that they're common here in the United States because of our gun culture, and they're convenient. But there's many of other things that are just as equally convenient. It may not be as glamorous to throw yourself in front of the expressway, but it sure as hell fucking works. I've yet to meet a man hit by a semi going 110 who lives to tell that tale. Perhaps there is one out there, and I'm wrong.
Man, yeah, it's not glamorous to jump off that 10-story building or to hang yourself.
But it's
because hanging is a horrible way to go.
Hanging
because most people don't understand that the old hanging style was meant to break your neck.
There you go. I was going to make that argument. You're supposed to do it right. 13. Remember, kids. I'm not condoning this.
Supposed to break your neck.
13
and then
knots.
you die instantly. But most people don't do that. They just kind of tip over the kitchen chair.
And they suffocate.
Then they strangle. And
that's a horrible way
And
to
suffocating is a horrible way to go.
Horrible way to go. Just pick the gun.
But again,
pick the fucking gun.
As we talked about, yeah, guns. If those people are going to die either way. No amount of gun control is going to stop that because there's thousands of other ways for people to kill themselves. You got the old toaster in the bathtub. You could always just cut yourself. You could overdose on pills, easily obtainable pills, might I add. It's not like it's some really hard pill. They're not that hard to get. You can pretty much buy any prescription and you can overdose on it. And it can kill you in a lot of cases. Again, you can hang, you can throw yourself off a building. There are so many ways that it's not funny. And solving one of those ways is not going to help because guns are that's always going to be a thing. Because what's the problem with a gun, right? You know, how painful is it when you really want to kill yourself with a gun? Just point it to your head, you pull the trigger, and you don't even know you pulled the trigger. And it's just that. It's over. It's done. You're gone. There's no time to lament. There's no time to regret. So that's why it's a preferred method. And again, as you said, you know, it's easy to access guns here, so it's obviously
as it should be.
First round choice. I love it. First America, but I don't advocate people killing themselves. I don't think taking away a gun method and taking away guns to prevent those 20,000 is justified. I believe those 20,000 need help. They really do need medical help, and just taking away everybody else's protection is not going to solve that problem.
I mean, just how many deaths would legitimately be saved in that context alone? How many suicidal people would go, you know what, I don't have the gun anymore. Poof, all the guns are gone. There's no more guns. Poof. How many of those suicidal people legitimately give up their quest to kill themselves? 10, 20, 100?
A few thousand? Even then?
Maybe. The vast majority of them are still going to... It's once again, like we just discussed. Killing yourself, for better or worse, it's not very difficult in the modern age. It's never been. Suicide's always been humans aren't the
We're
most
not the
sturdiest.
strongest building. You could trip and hit the head on the corner of your desk and you're dead.
You stand at death height. You fall backwards, hit the back of your head. That's death height right there, bitch. Fucking death height.
I laugh, but that's true. The human body is amazing, but it's also very, very fragile in a lot of senses and terms.
So I brought this up to him. I was like, hey, you know, like you gotta understand that at least a quarter, not quarter, I apologize, at least a third to a half are suicides. And no meaningful gun control is going to impact this. No, none of it. So then you're left with at least 2/3 to a half of the gun deaths. So you're looking at about 20,000. It's like 27, 28,000. What are you going to do next? The 99% of these deaths are gang related, and they only happen in a select few areas of a select few cities. That's really it. And I brought this up. I'm like, if you don't live in like a ghetto in one of like the worst cities in this country, Chicago, Detroit, fucking LA, Baltimore, Philly, DC, the chance of you experiencing gun violence is fucking, it's nil. And he did the most intellectually dishonest thing I think you could fucking do. He brought up the rates. Now, I'm not dismissing rates. All statistical data is important in the correct context. He brings up, because I made a slight remark, and I said, for some reason, all these gun deaths really only seem that aren't suicides, the homicide ones, the human killing another human ones, they really only seem to happen in Democrat-controlled cities. It was a little bit of a fuck you remark. And he brought up, well, if you really look at it, Republican states have higher violent rates than those cities do. And then, what a fucking intellect. He's like, Alaska and Alabama, Republican-owned states, have some of the highest gun violence rates in the country. I'm like, you're not wrong about that. But this goes down to the argument we've made before, which is, in a city of 10 people, in a city of 1,000 people, a city of 10 people has 10 people die. Sorry, the city, I'm gonna game like this. I just got killed by this motherfucker. Fucking piece of shit traitor. He said his Fire Nation under his name. In a city of 10 people, 1 person dies from gun violence. In a city of 1,000 people, 100 people die from gun violence.
That's the
rates are technically the same. 1 in 10 people are being killed by gun violence. But which one is an epidemic? Which one's really that bad? And I know you're making the argument, well, you're saying that 1 person's life is worth less than the 100 people's life. And I guess I am. I guess I'm taking the abstract and I'm saying that's the conclusion I'm drawing from it. Is that 1 person's life would arguably, without any other variables being controlled, just 1 random person's life is probably worth less than 100 people. And I think any normal person would make that argument. And I will claim that responsibility for that argument. Gun rates don't mean anything in this sense, because he brings up Alaska, who had 40 gun homicides in a given year on average. At least the year I checked. I think it was like 2017. And Alabama with like 130 or 150. And one thing I brought up, my city of Chicago, run by Democrats, has around 400 a year. A good year is 300, a bad year is 500, give or take. Alaska and Alabama's total gun homicides combined, which, as he mentioned, were 2 of the worst gun violent states by rate, still doesn't equal 1 city. Still doesn't equal 1 city. Is that not significant? Is that not meaningful in any way?
Does that not make you think
there might be an issue here? And his argument against that was nothing. He muted me soon after that, and there was no counterbalance to that.
Why does my home state of Texas, who has a population of close to nearly 30 million people, and who is very pro-gun, do not have that high of rates?
I'm like, you need to. States, it's abstract. It's all abstract, but you do have to pick a point. Just because it's a Republican state doesn't really mean anything. There's lots of Illinois is a Republican state when you don't include for Chicago. California is a Republican state when you don't include for LA, for San Francisco, and a few of the other, like Sacramento. I think is Sacramento in California, or is that Washington State? Or that Oregon? I apologize to anyone watching from Sacramento. I don't know where your state's located. My biggest apologies.
Sacramento, the 51st state.
Texas.
I don't know where that
Texas is a Republican state, but when you look at cities like Dallas and Houston, it's blue. So just because it's a Republican state, I wonder where the 40 deaths of Alaska, the gun deaths, happen in that state. Probably in the one city they have in that state of Anchorage, Alaska. There's also Juneau. So I guess apologies to Juneau. I didn't mean to insinuate that there's only one state. It was an exaggeration. There's probably more than just 2 exactly. Where are those gun deaths in Alabama occurring? Are they happening in the boonies with a lot of guns? Or are they happening in cities like Mobile, Alabama? Where are they happening? Birmingham, Alabama. And then not all cities are created equal. You go to Vermont, which is a Democratic state, to be entirely fair. You go to Burlington, which is a Democratic city, and it doesn't really have gun violence, which brings up an interesting point, which is the racial point of it, but I don't know if we should get into that. I don't know if that's proper.
Yeah, it's just the idea is, just because the rates say this, you have to look at the correct context. Because I could look at rates all day, and that, we can just sit here and argue in circles. But yeah, you have to do more than just look at numbers. Anyone could go, well, fucking the numbers here say this. But there's more to it than that. Yeah, again, back to full circle, American due diligence. Man, we're wrapping these little conversations up nicely.
Aren't
Full
we
circle. I like it.
Because then you get... I don't want to touch into it because it's a touchy subject. But you know what? People need to not be pussies. People don't need to be afraid of touchy subjects. They bring up Europe. They say, well, when you account for population, when you bring up European states to the population of the United States and you account for that factor, the violence rates are still fucking staggering. I'm like, well, break it apart. I've done it. I did the math back in sophomore or junior year of high school for a debate. I broke up the homicide rates by race. And I found that when you divided it by race, you found that white people had practically the same, and in some cases even lower, violent homicide rates, crime rates, than European contemporary nations. I'm not trying to insinuate anything based on race. I just think it's an interesting topic to talk about. That when you account for things like race, you're still not seeing the same, you don't see the same discrepancy anymore. The moment you account for it, the moment you bring that out, boom. Just like that. And I got into an argument with a European about this, and he did not like it. Because I asked him. Because it was an argument about immigration. It was an argument over whether or not Middle Eastern refugees, I don't know if they're not refugees anymore. The moment you, fucking small side note, the moment you're a refugee if you're, an American Civil War is happening and you escape to Mexico. You're a refugee. If you keep going south past Mexico, you're no longer a refugee. A refugee is someone who goes to the neighboring countries for safe refuge. You go any further than that, you become a migrant. You become an economic migrant, I think is the legal term behind it. So a lot of these people aren't refugees, but they are in the spiritual sense. They're escaping poverty. They're escaping warfare in the Middle East, largely caused by the Europeans and the Americans. I won't attempt to fucking defend that, but that's a whole different topic. And we were arguing about the crime rates, and I was arguing that they cause more crime. This is obvious. And he was like, well, the studies don't show that. I'm like, well, do the studies account for things like race? And he said, what? He immediately blocked me after shit-talking me for it. I said, well, that's very interesting, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Again, there was that big thing with Germany after it took a lot of Syrian refugees, that the fucking rape count, of people just increased to a staggering high of rape crimes.
They show me one study. Migrants commit less crime. Like, well, is this accounting for migrants? Where are these migrants coming from? Are you grouping migrants from a nation like France and a nations like Syria in together? Because I don't think that's entirely fair. I don't think that's entirely honest to be.
That's not the same thing.
That's a misleading statement.
When you come from a first world, as fucking horrible as it is, but you can't deny that there is a very big difference between first world and third world nations. When people coming from a first world nation into a first world nation, it's not that big of a deal, right? I migrate to Canada. Is there a few cultural things that are different? Yes. But otherwise, I'm going to be fine. But when you come from a Middle Eastern third world nation to a European first world nation, you can't even compare. It would be easier to count the similarities in a way, right? Because the differences are just so staggering. The culture is just so different. It's not the same as, France, Germany obviously have two very different cultures. I'm not saying Europeans are all one big basket, but their cultures are far more similar than Germany and the Syrians.
People don't like to acknowledge that. People don't want to. That's my issue with people. I don't like this argument that everyone has to be the same. Everyone's not equal. Everyone is not the same. Cultures are not equal. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to have some moral cultural high ground. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, American or Western or first world culture is superior to all other forms of culture. I'm not going to sit here and make that argument because I don't know if that's true. As a libertarian, I'm a very subjectivist kind of person. I'm curious to looking into everything. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that someone from America, like you just said, someone from America, someone from France, from Norway, or it doesn't have to be white countries. It doesn't have to be Western countries. Somewhere like Japan, somewhere like Australia, somewhere like Mexico, even somewhere like Mexico is anything close to cultures like Syria, which has been torn by civil war for 8 years. Of course, it's gonna fucking drastically change your fucking culture. You can't have multiculturalism. And that's another topic people don't want to have.
No, because what happens? People unite under one idea, right? People will pick what's close to them, what's similar to them. Again, I don't like. No one wants to bring this up, right? But like if it's a group of Germans versus a group of Americans, I'm probably gonna go fucking hang out with the Americans because I am American. It's the same thing. And like, let's say you're in war, right? You're in war, and you have the fucking German who's bleeding out, and you have your own side, the Americans. I'm not saying that we're fighting each other. Let's say it's a coalition force, right? Germany's one of our allies. But as an American, I'm probably going to be more inclined to help the American. I'm not going to be consciously thinking American over German, but it's just subconsciously, and it's in the back of your mind that I would probably be going, well, him, American. And people don't like bringing that up. People don't like bringing up that they do. Every single person has this in them.
This is an inherent bias in all peoples.
Mm-hmm. It's the job of you as an intellectual, because we are very advanced, highly thinking creatures. So I've seen what people say is to try to get over this bias, this program, right? Imagine us as a computer, right? That bias is just programmed into you. But since we are so advanced, we could overcome that bias. It's just very hard to. But we can. You can overcome that bias.
I mean, that 100% fucking agree. We're humans. We're definitely a cut above the rest. We don't have instincts like animals. So I think that's one of the most beautiful aspects of the human race, is that we don't have instincts. Instincts are not something humans have. Humans have to learn everything. Humans aren't born like gazelles who can 3 hours after birth know how to and successfully run away from predators. Humans have to learn things from themselves, from others, from what they observe. It's beautiful.
Just that's a perfect example. Human babies. Look at every other single form of animal offspring. They have some kind of defense mechanism. Something is built into it. Some kind of defense mechanism. Humans don't. A baby is born, if you just leave that baby there, it will die. That baby has no way to defend on itself. Baby has to be supported by its parents, which makes us humans very unique. And we're, again, unique in many other ways. We are very advanced, That gorilla would probably tear me in half, right? Because its evolutionary trait makes it very big, very stocky, very muscular. That's just what evolution has done to it. But once he gets done beating me up, I'm going to press this handy-dandy button. I'm going to glass his entire fucking jungle.
If you're fucking still alive after that goddamn beating.
But you get the idea, right? Humans don't have a lot of physical, natural advantages, but our intellect is something that is bred from our evolution. The idea that we are self-conscious. I'd look into a mirror and I see me, and I go, yeah, that's me. It's not something you can do and replicate with any animals. Even some of our closest genetic cousins, like gorillas and monkeys and chimpanzees, you put a fucking mirror in front of them, and they go, another male. They have no idea of self-identity. That is something humans have uniquely been able to do. But yet, with all this intelligence and all this evolutionary backing, humans can't understand. Humans can't overcome that natural bias, and a lot of humans can't overcome that natural bias. A lot of humans don't use this intelligence to an advantage or any meaningful way in a lot of things. It's really sad. It's a downright shame, is what it is.
I think it's just the progress of a species as a whole. I think as we progress, we continue to enlighten ourselves. We're in a dark time. We're not in the dark ages, but we're in a dark time when it comes to mental faculties. I don't know. That's not the right word I want to use.
We have no, but I understand exactly what you're saying. We haven't had our new renaissance yet.
We'll become more enlightened. I hope. I have hope and faith in the human race.
Human race has survived this damn long.
And if we're wrong, we're wrong. And that's their problem.
You know what?
All I can do is try to enlighten myself, to learn all that I can, to better myself, and through myself, my species, and hope that others do the same.
That's beautiful. It's a good thing. It's a good goal. Anyway, I think we did pretty good. We
can wrap up in a few minutes. That's why I like selfishness. Improve yourself. Make yourself better, and by making yourself better, you will make the species better. Make yourself better and pass that on to the next generation. Even if it's not your straight blood, pass on what you learn. Pass on what you become. By blood, by voice, by teaching, and make the whole species better as a whole.
Yeah, people like, speaking of selfishness, people have that it's inherently bad to be selfish, but that's just ingrained to us as a culture, right? Naturally, if we want to go back to just us as a species and as animals, because we are animals. People don't like to admit that we are animals, but we are sophisticated animals. But being selfish is a good trait. Like lying is a good trait if you're trying to be survival of the fittest. Right? It is a good trait. Lying, but by our culture, lying's bad. The idea is just continue to thrive without shaming all these natural advantages we actually can use. Right? And don't bring the whole species down. But again, if Joe down the street dies off, but his brother, who was actually really good, he survives, he continues to thrive. Joe may have failed, but his brother survived, and the species continues to therefore thrive. Fun stuff. It's very interesting, very complicated. Very complicated evolution. Monkeys and stuff.
We definitely kind of swapped around on topics here, but I thought we did a pretty good job here.
We hit our target. We hit our target ones.
Yeah. I like the whole unscripted thing. We don't know where the next topic's going to lead to. We might not even finish the current topic, which is sad, but we might come back to it. You don't know. And hopefully we can rediscuss. I just saw a fucking laser annihilate some motherfucker over there. Not going there in the future. But I think we've been on this for an hour now, over an hour.
Really?
Yeah. Damn. So I think we could probably wrap this up, give a quick little conclusion. I think we can move on with our lives for now, for temporary, until the next time. I think this will be a good thing to recurringly do.
We're just going to keep doing this? I like it.
With all 3 views that we get,
All 3 views. Man, those 3 guys are going to be enlightened.
Oh, or fucking horrified, sickened, disgusted, enthralled. Many different words could be used, but
actually, that's the thing. I want to hear the responses.
Do you want to make the final? You want to make the final words?
Oh man, final words. See you next time. Hopefully we get views. If not, we'll just keep making random videos.
All right.